This is something I've always wanted to build, and I quit Google a couple of years back, thinking about how am I going to build this, and here we are. In this series, I'm talking about the sort of behind the scenes. In a week or so, I'll be maybe starting with demos of the actual product. Uh, the product is working pretty well, actually, but I'm figuring out the branding and domains and all that. But anyways, the goal of this series is to go behind the scenes and go technical. So if you're the kind of person who's wondering, how do you go about building a search platform? This should be interesting. Now, a caveat, when a lot of people think search engine, they think like, I'm going to crawl the entire web, build an index. I'd love to. But like I mentioned in my previous video, most websites will block you. And it's also very expensive because you have to, the web's a very large place. You need lots of storage, lots of, just huge infrastructure. That's why Google is Google. But it's something that's on my mind down the road. I absolutely want to build a small web index. I'm a one-person company for now, and I'm planning to stay that way. But it's something I want to build. It absolutely is want to build. I know Perplexity has built its own small web index, and it's growing, and I'm super supportive of that. Maybe they can open up their API. I know Search is another company that's building, I believe, their own index. I very much support that. Any small company building their own web index I support that, because we need more companies other than Google. The problem is most websites block you. And also you have to use headless browsers these days to render JavaScript and CSS, and kind of also look at the image, not just read the text content. Also, the infrastructure has to be pretty sophisticated, because a lot of content these days is behind paywalls or behind APIs. Like, for example, X platform, you shouldn't crawl X platform. You should get permission. I got access to the X platform via their paper use pilot, so super excited for that, and I've integrated actually X works in my little search engine. So just so happy to see it. I have to actually share it with the X platform team. Anyways, it's very expensive. It's hard, and even if you have the money and the motivation, websites are going to block you. And without resorting to things that may break terms of service for a lot of these websites, you'll be in, there's not much you can do. Also, there's a lot of AI slop, and it's only going to increase. So there's a lot of garbage. Actually, not 95%, 97, maybe even 99% of what you find on the web is garbage, or slop, or duplicate content, or spam. So Google puts a huge amount of effort in sort of weeding out the good stuff, and of course they've built a reputation for it. But anyways, back to what I'm doing. Here I'm sharing my screen, and one of the things I want to continue from my previous discussion, let me actually move this camera a little bit, there you go, is this concept of sources, and how I have two sets of sources. One is unstructured source, which is your web. I'm currently using a web search API because, like I said, I don't have my own index. It's something I have to, but that's just a feed, and that gives you some information. There are some websites. Once you get some results for query, actually, even before you can query the web, there is a whole query understanding piece that you have to implement. I talked in the last two videos of how I'm thinking about query understanding, how I extract concepts and intent and understanding in multiple languages. At least I was a little high level, but those are good videos. So that, I'm not talking about that piece. That's one of my favorite subjects. But today I'm talking about what happens next after you've done the query understanding. Now you know, you can querying the web is probably a good idea. Then you call your search API. And then that's not in this diagram, by the way. So actually there is right here, provider. So search API. And here I have said always, but this is a little old. Now this has changed. There is a concept of solo mode that I talked about in my previous video, where in some cases I'm not going to search the web. Um, and this whole algorithm is also becoming predictive. So what I call smart routing is something also I'm working on. The idea being that I don't want to call all providers all the time. I'm not already doing that. You can see some scores, but I'm making it even more sophisticated where even direct search is not always. Anyway, that's on the side. The kind of going back to the subject, you have structured data that's coming from a lot of APIs, and then you have unstructured data coming from web. Web is just results and snippets. You can go one step further for web results and crawl or scrape some of the web results. Perplexity does that, which is I think important. I only do it in a very small way today, because it adds latency, cost, and it's kind of just real difficult to do. Um, in my case, because of those reasons. And also, you have to be smart because every time you fetch web pages, there's a lot of crap that comes with it. And then you have to select the irrelevant piece and more processing needed, etc. So that's kind of something I want to tackle down the road. But right now, it's actually pretty good, working pretty good, the pilot that I have on my side. But that's unstructured data, web results. But structured data, I so far have integrated YouTube, places, weather, time. So these are new if you're kind of watched my first videos. Weather and time integrated new, and then X platform. So everything new, news, anything recent, anything trending, X platform is a great source. For weather, of course. So there's an open source, open Meteo platform that I'm using, but I'm exploring other providers. And then Google Maps for places, and YouTube, obviously for YouTube. So that's the sources, right? So when you get a query or a prompt, and some prompts can be very large, you understand the prompt, you extract the key terms, entities, intent, all of that. Then you decide what to do when it comes to orchestration. Like, how do you construct the final response? What data, what sources do you need? So that's what I was showing you here. You may need some of these sources or all of these sources. Now, the one thing I want to talk about in this video is, imagine a query comes in like meaning of life for Gen Z folks, right? What do they think about it? I think in that case, what I'd ideally expect my system to trigger is, of course, direct search, but also X platform, because a lot of Gen Z folks post stuff on X platform. And one of the things I've been thinking about is, how do you take everything you get from the web, everything you get from X, and then also the model itself can generate its own prose, its own content, and I take that into consideration as well during synthesis, which is the last step, last phase. We'll talk about it in future video. But how do you rank content so that you select the best pieces? Because you cannot include everything in the synthesis step. There's a lot of data, and of course, not all data is very useful. So for you have to rank the sources themselves, or you have to rank the content, I should say, that you derive from different sources, and then from each of the content, you have to select what are the best sort of snippets and best pieces of content that you want to use in your final synthesis phase. And this is very hard, and this is very different than how Google used to work, and to some extent works today, which is what Google and Larry Page and came up with, called PageRank, this algorithm, where it looked at how popular web pages are, how many other web pages link to it, um, the popularity or the quality of the domain, the tier of the domain. Is it a top tier domain or not? The geo, like the locale, the location of the where it's served from, or where the website is hosted, or what country the website is from, the language, and also the quality of content. So Google puts a lot of emphasis on quality of content. Like, is it duplicative? Is it original work? Is it very long and you just kind of someone's just ranting, or it's just a forum? Um, like, what's it called? And putting it all together and then rank, and then you see the ranked top 10 results. So that's good for Google. We kind of benefit with some of that already, or I benefit from some of that already because I call a search feed and I get the top, 5, 10, 15 sources already. So I kind of benefit from it. But what's missing for me is you get, say, 15 web results, great, and some content from each of these results, whether you crawl it or use the snippets. But then you also have content from X platform. Actually, I forgot to mention, even YouTube may trigger for meaning of life for Gen Z. I'm pretty sure YouTube should be a lot of YouTuber, a lot of Gen Z folks who may post on YouTube. Definitely TikTok, but I haven't integrated TikTok yet. Yeah, X platform triggers, YouTube triggers, web results trigger. Now you have content, some content from all of these sources. How do you blend it together? And for that, you first have to rank. What is the top content? Well, actually, before that, you have to dedupe because you may get some duplicated content. You have to dedupe. And then you have to rank. But this is a very interesting rank because you're ranking web search results, which is traditional web pages, with structured sources like YouTube and X platform. And by structured, I just mean that the data that comes back is a lot more structured because it's like API. But now to add some more complexity to it for YouTube, you can technically pull the entire transcript of the video. Now you have even more data, but now you have even more compute you have to do, and you're adding latency. So that's the kind of rule or unsaid rule that you have to keep in mind when you're building an AI search or any search platform. Anything you do adds to latency. Anything you do adds to cost. And of course, everything impacts the final quality. And you have to be very smart at saying no to a lot of things and yes to the few things I'll finally give you the quality. So in this case, do you query the YouTube um, transcript or not? No, YouTube doesn't make an API or they don't support an API to extract the transcript. The transcript is supposedly public information for public videos. So I suspect Perplexity and maybe other AI platforms do pull it. I, in certain cases, do extract transcript. Um, if Google contacts me and says that's breaching terms of conditions, I'll remove it. Because you do get a lot of things from the public page itself. You don't necessarily need the entire transcript. Anyways, and then I construct a summary of each of the transcript or extract the best pieces, most relevant pieces of the content of the transcript using semantic search, so vector search, and then include the result of that vector search for each snippet in the final sort of list of sources to rank. But that's how far I've reached. I haven't gone anything beyond that because this itself is very complicated. You have web results, you have structured results, and for YouTube and some sources, you go extra step and extract either the transcript or you don't extract transcript and just pull the description, some comments, some other things. And then you have to kind of rank it all together, put it together, and construct the final response. So how do you do the ranking? I mean, I don't know. Right now, the best signal I have is similarity with vector search. And so the idea being that with query understanding, you find the sort of most semantically relevant query or set of queries. I haven't done set of queries. I want to do set of queries, but right now it's just a query. And then for each source, how semantically relevant the content is. That's one way to rank. And then I have some heuristics. So if it's a maps or location query, like meaning of life, there is no location triggering at all. But if you say best restaurant in New York City, we should, via heuristics, bump all the places result. I'm not doing it today, but I want to. Right now, I'm just doing semantic, which is not enough. It gets you some far, but not enough. But I think you have to do that. And also, I show all the sources in the ranking that you applies to the sources that people will see. And I do sources very prominently compared to Perplexity, which does like a row Google also does a row of sources. I'm doing like a vertical list of sources, and I'll show you actually right here. This is actually the response. One of the screenshots. I'm not showing the full product yet because, like I said, still working on branding. But this is a query, recent Elon Musk tweets. And I got a beautiful response thanks to the X platform and I think web as well. I don't know, this only X platform is the source, but we do a good job summarizing. So here is the ranking is very easy because it's latest Elon tweets, you just get tweets and then you just rank or show all the tweets in order of recency. And here's a screenshot. So this is how the source structured sources currently show up, how I'm doing. But I'm experimenting with how to show because I want to give a lot of credit to the sources. This, what I'm building is really only an artifact of all the sources. And so the sources I believe should be prominent, but not in a way that Google search 1.0 or 2.0 worked. I'm thinking, I'm even thinking putting the sources up top in a collapsible section. Right now, you don't see it here, but the result is here at the top and then sources are at the bottom. But I'm thinking this to move the sources on the top, but in a collapsible section. So you see a preview of sources, you click a button, you see all of it. So you can, and because I'm streaming the response, you get the sources. Maybe we can show the sources right away. So if you find a quick result in the source, you can just click on it and move on and not even wait for the result to generate. That's okay. You got what you wanted. Maybe a place result, a Google Maps place result. Or you can wait and see the response at the bottom. But right now I'm doing the search at the bottom. This is how it looks. So yeah, that's that. Like, here's another way of how some of the sources I'm executing. So I'm executing in parallel. So direct search and any sort of matches that a route provider matches. So if for the query, like what we did previously discussed, meaning of life for Gen Z folks, direct search should trigger, YouTube should trigger, and I don't have X platform here, but X platform should also trigger. And I execute all of the providers in parallel and then collect the sources and then rank and then merge. So all of that is here. You merge the sources, you want to rank the sources. I do very basic ranking. I want to improve that. And then extract the best content from each of the sources for final AI-based, sort of almost like a summarization task. So that's, yeah, that was the topic of this video. In the next video, I'm going to talk about one particular structure source, how I deep dive, like here, how I talk XAPI and what happens like for one source. And of course, there are multiple sources that I'm integrating, and I have plans to integrate a dozen more providers. I'm thinking Reddit, um, and then a few more. That's kind of the strength of the platform that I want to build. And it allows for, without breaking terms of services, in a very legal way, build this kind of AI search platform. And you also help the sources, they benefit from this because you have to pay for the APIs. So they get some money. And then if there are requirements for showing the source in a certain way, happy to follow that. But that's the basis of the search platform that I'm building. It's very standard, nothing new. I'm sure Perplexity, I mean, this is kind of the baby version of Perplexity. They probably do a ton more. Google does a ton more. But this is how I'm thinking. And I have the luxury of building it from scratch and the great pleasure of building it from scratch. And I love it. And I love going through all the decision making, which if I was working for Google, which I was, spread across so many different teams, because when I joined Google, I was already 24 years old, 25. When Google turned 25 and I was there. And you're only involved in a very small piece. And a lot of people like it, but I like thinking about the entire architecture end to end and kind of building this in a new gen way. Like AI is here, LLMs here. People like me can build this now in a smart, intelligent way. So how do you go about doing it? And there are very few companies I know, very few people I know who are doing this. Perplexity obviously has, but I think we need more services like this, more options for consumers. and especially options that are small, come from small businesses that are more honest to the users and put users first, users' privacy, users' concerns, users' request first, over just growth. And that's the key motivation. I think that's needed. And then what's the future? We'll do a series of videos on the future of what I'm thinking, including possibly a hardware component as well for this, because even today, like, I'm kind of, it's hard to believe that I can ask to this little platform anything, and it gives a reasonable, good response. Like, and now with real time, with weather and time, eh, that's kind of the beginnings. And X platform, you get kind of real time info, and like, that's so exciting, like fresh content, and you use AI. And of course, all the platforms do this, by the way. I'm sure ChatGPT, all of everyone do it, but I'm doing it in sort of my own way, how I think users would want, or and then the feedback I get from friends and family, which is deviates in many ways actually. And you'll see in some of these videos how some of the other big players do it. They do it probably the same thing, but different ways, and maybe more sophisticated ways. I do a very simpler sort of baby step approach to it, and I love the process. And the key mantra I've followed so far is saying no to most things and yes to just the things that will move the needle for the user. Um, and also talk about who the target audience is in maybe a future video. Um, yeah, I think that's fun to talk. But yeah, that's today's video, talking about sort of what happens after query understanding. You have all these sources and APIs and of course web results, and how do you put it together? How do you rank? I didn't give any detail on how do you rank because I don't have, I haven't implemented other than just semantic ranking for the query, or what the expanded query is after the query understanding, and semantically ranking plus heuristics. So the current algorithm I'm following is semantic ranking plus heuristics. So if it's a maps or location query, just put all, boost all place Google Maps results. Very basic. Uh, I think it's okay. It kind of does still work. I will improve this obviously over time. I would love to know what Perplexity does. I don't think they've published how they do ranking across different sources of content. I would love to know how they do it. This is how I'm doing it. It's actually the simple approach that I'm taking gets you pretty far, because you benefit from the ranked search results that you get from the search result feed already. So you already get the best the most relevant websites uh, to include in your ranking. That's already kind of a win for me. And then semantically matching among all those results is another win, simple win. And then finally, some basic heuristics to boost certain sources based on the intent of the query, which I extract anyways from query using AI or LLMs, or and just boost and construct the founders. That actually gets pretty far. I would love to compare my algorithm with Perplexity, which probably is 10 times more sophisticated, but my results would be pretty good. May not be the best, but pretty good for the effort. And the final responses look pretty good. So that's how I'm able to tell. But of course, right now, the only feedback is my friends and family. The real test will be users. So that to be coming. So that's ranking, how I'm thinking about it. Very simplistic, very, very basic. Um, by the way, if you're thinking how I'm doing semantic search, a couple ways, either in memory. For other semantic search, I'm using uh, um, Postgres SQL data store. And then in some cases, I'm also using Firestore, which is on a pay-as-you-go basis. And then um, I also have for caching Redis, but I'm not currently using Redis. I'm using Upstash Redis because they're pretty cheap. But I'm not using semantic search or doing semantic search on Redis yet. I heard it supports it. But right now, all the semantic matching, when I say I'm doing it in memory or in Postgres or Firestore. That's kind of, if you're curious, where I'm doing the semantic, how am I doing the semantic matching? And heuristics are just YAML files for now, or some kind of in code. Very simple. That's it. Thanks everyone. In the next video, I'm going to deep dive into one particular provider, specifically X platform, and how I'm implementing, it's actually not as easy as it sounds to just integrate even an API. Because say you get a query like latest Elon tweets, if you just kind of send that query to X API, you'll get garbage. I actually tried it. Most of the time, you just get other people talking about Elon, and it's just garbage, like, and repeats and duplicate. The API doesn't do much in terms of cleaning, or it's just recent tweets or posts, X posts. So you have to do some nice kind of processing to get to a point where you get either Elon Musk's tweets or folks talking about him in a high quality way. It's not easy. It's absolutely. And also imagine you're getting the query in natural language. And I am multilingual from day one is my tenant, one of my tenants. So I could get a query in Japanese or Spanish, and you have to kind of understand it and extract and then translate that and call just one provider X API, and you have to do that for all YouTube plays, etc. It's not impossible or very, very difficult, but it's not easy. It's definitely not very easy. So I hope to deep dive into just how I do just for X, because it's very interesting. Yeah, to see if someone watches this. I don't know if anyone's watching, but if you're watching and I get feedback. My purpose of these videos is I want to build an open and sort of document my journey, maybe just for myself. But if I get feedback, I'm always open. Yeah, and please subscribe and join my Patreon and Discord and all that. I have to do all of that, but some of the links are in the description. Thank you. Hasta la vista. Take care. And where's the finish button? There you go. That's the finish button. See ya.